Hello there. Today I watched Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and now I want to review it for you. It's a superhero fantasy adventure that mostly takes place underwater. The story was a team effort by James Wan, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, Jason Momoa, and Thomas Pa'a Sibit. It was then adapted into a screenplay by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. James Wan directed the film, which stars Jason Momoa as Aquaman, Patrick Wilson as Orm, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen as Black Manta. The film follows two intertwined storylines that culminate in a big showdown. Black Manta is on a quest for revenge against Aquaman, and in his efforts uncovers a lost kingdom and powerful ancient artifacts. When Black Manta's actions start to threaten Atlantis and the greater world, Aquaman is forced to team up with his brother Orm to take on the threat. There's also a third storyline that follows a scientist working for Black Manta, a man called Dr. Stephen Shin. Stephen is some kind of scientist working to find Atlantis and taking advantage of Black Manta's resources. What he finds brings them incredible power, but as Manta's quest for vengeance becomes more psychotic, Shin finds himself questioning his allegiance. The film starts by playing out a big section of Black Manta's story while Aquaman catches the audience up on parts of his life and reacts to Manta's actions. After about 40 minutes into the film, Aquaman's story takes center stage and Manta moves into the background, having set up the plot. The story for Manta is a revenge mission that sees him take a dark path and lose himself in the process. For Aquaman and Orm, it's a brotherly adventure to save the world. The two of them bond while doing it and build a better relationship. There's a lot of humor, action, montages and recaps, and a whole lot of CGI scenery. The cast comes down to a few characters under Manta's employ, a few named characters from Atlantis and Aquaman's family, a couple of characters that Aquaman and Orm meet, and the leads. There are a lot of normal people, some generic henchmen, and the Atlantean aristocrats. For the leads, you have Aquaman, Orm, Black Manta, and Dr. Stephen Shin. Aquaman, or Arthur Curry, is the king of Atlantis and also a frat boy who never grew up. He has a kid now and he's married, but he's still got a college mentality about the world. He's carefree and likes to fight, but at his core, he cares about others and wants to help them. Orm is his more serious younger brother. He's far more intelligent than his brother, but also a lot more gullible. He tries to do the right and responsible thing at all times and tries to keep his brother in check. Black Manta is a serious man on a revenge mission against the kingdom of Atlantis. Aquaman killed his father and he wants to pay back that insult 1,000 times over. He's willing to cross every line in his pursuit of vengeance. Stephen Shin is an intelligent and kind man who got caught up with the wrong people. He wants to find Atlantis and prove to the world that he's good at his job. Shin is a naturally curious man, which often gets him into trouble. The visual journey is a CGI nightmare that follows both Aquaman and Black Manta on their journeys through the ocean. There are a few real sets here and there, but most of the film is CGI with the actors' faces superimposed on the images. Manta's adventure sees him visit an ice kingdom and lead an attack on Atlantis. Aquaman's adventure starts in his beachfront home with a recap of his life and then follows him on his journey through the world. He visits two different underwater cities, an island with giant creatures, and then makes his way to the Ice Kingdom for a final confrontation. For standout moments, you have shots of the underwater cities and their inhabitants going about their lives, and all the big action moments of Aquaman and Orm fighting against Manta and his soldiers. Sound-wise, the film uses both original music and scored orchestral tracks. The original music comes every once in a while to add a bit of flavor to a character or environment. It's usually rock and roll. The scored orchestral tracks tend to follow the scenery closely and try to elevate the emotions at any given time. They use a large selection of instruments and styles and create a lot of different feelings to inject into the story. Okay, so how was it? The writing doesn't make a lot of sense and there are a ton of plot holes in the story, but it's also a lot of fun, has some good humor in it, and creates some good characters. It's a bit cliche across the board, but Arthur and Orm's time together was really exciting. There are a lot of great moments and dialogue mixed in between god-awful montages and long-winded explanations from different characters. There is so much exposition in this film that you will wonder if it's a history lesson. The general cast does their absolute best with the material they're given. There are lots of great moments from the supporting cast, both in the dialogue and their expressions, and the film works from an acting perspective. For standout performances, you had Randall Park as Dr. Shin and Patrick Wilson as Orm. Patrick Wilson is called to return to his character from the first film and redeem him. He starts as a prickly bush and slowly becomes more likable as the film progresses. We get to see an innocent side of him that we didn't see before, and Wilson does an outstanding job of making the character stand out. Randall Park is playing a similar character to the ones he's done in the past, but his ability to pull it off can never be understated. He's both hilarious and great at the emotional aspects of his role. He pulls off the courageous little guy aesthetic well. Visually, this film is an absolute mess. The CGI is all over the place in terms of quality, and anytime it's mixed with real shots of the actors, it steps into uncanny valley territory. There's also an insane amount of montages, and at times the different sections of this film feel rushed through. That said, there are an absolute ton of standout moments in the fighting and the scenery. The cities of Atlantis and the Pirate Haven were an absolute gem to look at. They had these incredibly bustling cities with people everywhere and tons of new sights to behold. The action is filled with awesome moments, great fights, and some truly staple superhero moments. I actually wanted to cheer out loud during the final fight. It was that cool. Sound-wise, the film does a great job of supporting the story and emotions. It follows each scene precisely and elevates the film to great heights. It sounds like a grand adventure the entire time. The little bits of original music that they tossed in there brought a ton of excitement too. They were fun and catchy and always well timed. Now, having said all that, the music in this film also felt a bit generic, like it could have come out of any fantasy adventure movie of this type. It's not memorable, but it does a great job of supporting the story. Overall, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is a fun and exciting film with a lot of bad decisions in it. The CGI bodies were a terrible choice, the underwater voices are so annoying, and the massive amount of exposition was a big mistake. If you can get past that stuff, there are some wonderful views, a heartfelt story about redemption and coming together, and a lot of fun action. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.